Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fair Game Podcast. Today's guest joins us from Grand Island, Nebraska, where she's the entertainment and events director for the Nebraska State Fair. This is Karli Schulz. Welcome to the show, Karli. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I am superb. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording. You're from North Dakota originally, now in
Yes.
Grand Island, and you guys ended up getting about 15 inches of snow last week, and last week or so. Of course, by the time this airs, people are going to be like, "Wait, it's springtime. How are they getting snow?" For posterity, this is being recorded February 2nd. But you, despite growing up in the Dakotas, you're done with snow. You're ready for spring.
Yes, absolutely. Ready to start getting ready for fair.
Yeah, it's when you guys get that level of snow, because here in New Mexico, we rarely will we get, especially in the city, will we get that kind of snow. Does it just shut everything down, or is it like, nope, plow it and keep going to work?
Some people definitely plow it, keep going to work. We shut down for a couple days here in the office, but for the most part, we're turned around and have most of the city back open by the next morning.
Got it. Got it. So you're there at the Nebraska State Fair. Many years ago, they moved from, I guess it was Lincoln over to Grand Island. I remember performing there with the one of my attractions in, oh, I'm going to say 2012 or 13. And it was like a year or so after they'd moved. How has the fair grown into that space there in Grand Island?
Yeah, so coming from Lincoln, and this was before my time, but coming from Lincoln, it definitely had that negative feel to it. People weren't happy that the state fair had moved because it had become, or it was just such a staple in Lincoln. But coming into Grand Island, we've got um, newer buildings. They're not as new now, but they're definitely still new compared to a lot of other fairgrounds. Great state-of-the-art facilities. And we've been able to really make the fairgrounds our own here. We have very limited actual permanent structures, so we can pretty much move anything anywhere. And that's been great, especially now this year, we're dealing with construction of a casino on our grounds.
Oh wow.
And
Now
so being able to move things.
where are they constructing that on your grounds?
So it'll be essentially the middle of our grounds in a way. They're laid out kind of weird, but it will take up a good chunk of where our midway would normally sit.
So like on the north side of the arena where,
Yeah.
oh, I'm forgetting who was, is it Wade shows you had? Who was there?
Yes.
It
Yep.
was Wade. Yeah. So now where's Wade gonna have to move?
So they'll stay mostly general area. We end up pushing them a little farther west
Okay.
and a little bit farther south. They ended up taking up some of the area of our family fun zone space. So that's been interesting to play with, but we're going to make it work this year. Took away a lot of parking, which will
That's
be
always
a
rough.
challenge. Yeah.
That's always rough, but fair, almost every fair I've ever been at, parking is typically a premium. I remember years ago when I was there, the last time I want to say I was in was, I want to say 2017 or 2018. Y'all had a carnival barker there. Like as you came in from the main entrance, they had like a half body and they were like the ambassador for the fair. They would knew when show times were, where the bathrooms were, all that. Is that you guys still have that character at the fair?
Yes. Yep. Bobby the Barker is a staple character. She still sits right by the main gate
Okay.
and welcomes guests in, tells them what's going on, tells them what the most exciting things are that
Right.
day, and really acts as an ambassador for the fair.
Yeah, for you guys listening, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, it's basically a magician's illusion where the character looks like they're on a stick. They're like a half body. I guess the idea originally would have come, as best I can research, it came from the State Fair of Texas because they had one for, I think they still do. It's a fantastic character. So if you guys are listening, you should look up Bobby the Barker Nebraska State Fair. It's a really cool idea. um it's super knowledgeable too. I remember talking with Bobby and um knew the show times, knew where things were, knew everything. You need to know where the nearest bathroom is, Bobby's got you covered. So now how did you end up getting involved in fairs?
I actually grew up in the industry. So my dad, when I was 10 years old, took over running the Red River Valley Fair in Fargo, North Dakota. And from that age on, I loved going to work with dad. I'd go to the fair with him early in the morning and I'd stay until 2 o'clock in the morning when we'd shut down the concerts and everything going on grounds. So growing up in that industry, I knew it was something that I wanted to stay in. And I've never been a livestock person. I know very little about livestock, but the entertainment part is super exciting to me. I took over the backstage area when I was about 16 years old. And from there, I knew that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life.
So it sounds like coming up in the industry had a huge impact on your life.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know what I'd be doing if I hadn't grown up in this industry.
So what if you came up in North Dakota? Obviously, Nebraska is not all that far away. How'd you end up coming into Grand Island and getting on with the Nebraska State Fair?
So it's kind of an interesting story. My dad left the River Valley Fair um, mid, or it would have been right before COVID took
Okay.
over. And we did a short stint in New Mexico. We call it our extended family vacation. And while I was down there, this job happened to open. With COVID going on, there were really limited jobs in the industry. I had just graduated college, knew what I wanted to do, but there were no jobs available. So when this job opened up, I was like, well, what are the chances that it's in the field that I want in the fair industry? So I blindly applied, knowing very little other than my dad knowing the executive director at the time,
Right.
and got the job, moved up here, and the rest is history.
Got it. So you said you did a short stint in New Mexico. That's my home state where I'm recording from today. Where were you in the state?
We were in Las Cruces.
Okay. Which were you with one of the fairs down at Southern New Mexico State Fair, or what were you doing down there?
My dad was running the convention center down in
Oh,
Las Cruces.
got it. Doñana County.
Yes.
It's an interesting experience down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was fun. Definitely different than what I'm used to growing up in the Midwest.
Yep.
But I mean, great place to stay when you couldn't go anywhere. It's sunshine. We could go hiking every day. So
Yep.
definitely
Yep.
good place to be.
And we have green chili. Did you
Yeah.
ever get into the green chili and
Oh,
or
I
was that
miss
not
green chili so much.
I'll have to send you some. I have several fair managers around the country that about every somewhere in September or August, I get the phone call that's like, "Hey, Robert, they should be roasting those chilies right about now." All right. So John Sykes, if you're listening, I think I owe you green chili. Yeah. So you're here, you end up back up there in Nebraska. Now as entertainment and events director, y are you booking grounds? Are you booking main stage? Are you covering all of that?
I do everything from main stage down to our daily events.
Got it. And
So every
what are you looking for when like for a grounds act? Because we're always curious as someone who's a grounds act provider, what a given fair is looking for. And I personally think a lot of the um, associate members who are entertainers can waste a lot of energy pursuing fairs that they don't really connect with in the first place. Their act wouldn't be a fit. Maybe there's not the space, maybe there's not the budget, all sorts of different reasons that an act might not go there. What are you looking for in an act that you're to get them to come to the fair? Like when you walk up down a trade show aisle, what is it you see that you go, that could work or that wouldn't work?
hmm Yeah, so I think the first thing I look at is uniqueness. I mean, there's a million hypnotists out there. There's a ton of magicians, ton of jugglers. So finding those unique acts that are probably a little cheesy, but something that's going to make the fair guests go, I have to go check that out. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is I look for professionalism in an act. When it comes down to those like hypnotists or magicians or whatever, there's so many options that I can narrow it down pretty quickly from like this person is going to be easy to work with. This person has what seems to be a good marketing portfolio. So when I ask for pictures and bios, and I'm going to get something that's high quality. And I think with the amount we book, I mean, I'm booking 15 to 20 grounds attractions every year, and that's on top of the 60 plus local regional attractions I'm booking. So I want it to work, or I want to be working with people that are able to streamline the process like we like to do here.
So someone that when you say I need good photos for print or for whatever, if they've got a link on their website where you can just go click it and pick and choose what you want, make
Mhm.
all that kind of thing easy, or even in the contract process, if they need RV space, if they need a footprint of space for their show, if it's all spelled out up front, sounds like
Mhm.
that makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
You ever book somebody that you thought this will be great, and then they get in there and they start performing, and you're like, oh, this isn't gonna work out so well.
Yes, I've had a couple of those. It's definitely a challenge, especially I normally know within a couple hours of an act getting on grounds how the week is gonna go. And there's been a couple that I'm like, this is super exciting. People are excited about it. And then they show up. And
And then they're here. We're very excited, and then they arrive, and it's like, oh God, what did we do?
or they don't arrive. I mean, I've had that
Have
too.
you had
Where
no show, like straight up no? Like I understand sometimes there's an engine problem, or God, somebody
Mhm.
tested positive for COVID. It happens, but have you just had acts just straight up no show, no call?
A couple years ago, I had an act on their way here change the contract on us and had
How
to
does
do
that
with,
work? Usually, once the signatures are on, it's a done
yeah,
deal.
yeah, it had to do with our petting zoo. So we have some exotic animals in our petting zoo, and they decided that they were not going to come if we didn't remove a specific animal from our petting zoo. And we've had this petting zoo for
So it wasn't the
forever.
petting zoo you were having the issue with. It was another
No, it was the
act
other act.
that knew
Yeah.
you had a certain animal in the petting zoo.
Yep, and we had told them in advance, we're like, there's going to be some crossover between your animals. Well, I got a phone call, I want to say a day or two before fair. And it was, well, if you don't tell this vendor or our petting zoo that they can't bring said animal, then we're not coming. And I said, well, you didn't tell me that in advance. Petting zoo's here, they've set up. We've worked with them for tons of years. I'm not going to tell them they can't bring specific animal. And they said, well, we'll give you an hour to make that change, and we're going to sit in this truck stop. And if we don't hear from you, we will be suing you and for breach of contract, and we will see you in court. And we're like, okay, what do
Lovely.
we do?
That sounds like a real professional act right
Yeah,
there.
they're not in business anymore.
You think?
But yeah, that was quite
Wow.
an experience. And then we had to turn around and fill a huge tent. So that was definitely,
Wow. And you
yeah.
guys have a fairly large grounds. Like it really does sprawl out there in Grand Island. I mean, were the acts on top of each other, or was it more than enough space that like no one would have cared whatsoever?
No, I mean, it was probably like the average person is probably a 5 minute walk apart. So plenty of a walk that you're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going over there because they have the same animal.
Right. Well, and that's just so odd because, man, I've been at fairs before where years ago when I first started performing, when I was doing magic, where it's not unusual to be booked where there might be a couple of magicians at a fair. But when you're sharing the same stage and you're going back to back, it's like, okay, it feels like you're competing for audience because they're not necessarily going to stay and see both shows because it's magic. And yet the shows were different enough in and of themselves that you couldn't really tell. There's almost like one happened to have magic in it. And like that we got along, everything worked. And I'm just
Mhm.
surprised that they actually called you and said, if you don't, like they gave you the ultimatum.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they never pursued anything. I mean, they had nothing to stand on with it, but
Well, other than dealing with super pleasant service providers like that, what do you enjoy most about the job there in Nebraska?
I think my favorite is when fair starts, seeing everything we've been working on all year long come together and getting to watch shows. And I don't so much watch the show as I watch the audience and seeing the smiles on kids' faces when they see the coolest thing ever, or talking to families who have come out to the fair and they've gone to every show that the performer's done so far, and just seeing that all this hard work we put in actually impacts the people in our community.
It is definitely hard work that all of you put in as up there in Nebraska. In fact, any fair that's I don't care whether it's a small county fair or a large state fair, the amount of work and effort that goes into putting on these events can be overwhelming. Um, how how do you handle that? And how do you handle your time management coming into the fair and then during the fair? Because there's a certain point where if you don't pace yourself on an event of that magnitude, you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really great here, and especially like our boss, she understands that work, I mean, work's going to come first, especially around the fair time. But she is always checking in on us, making sure that, hey, are you drinking enough water? Are you taking time for yourself? Did you go and take a nap break for a half an hour?
When was the last
And
time you ate?
yeah, that
Yesterday.
too. Yeah. So that's one thing, having a great support system and having a boss who is willing to let you go take a 30-minute nap during the day if you have a few minutes. And
That's
but then
actually pretty
also
impressive.
I I normally will go grocery shopping right before fair, get some actual food that isn't just carbs and butter and grease and all that fair food stuff. And I try to have a good breakfast every morning.
Yeah.
Try to start it out with something. I mean, even if it's a peanut butter sandwich, I feel like that's better than
It's better than a funnel
not
cake.
eating. And then I just try to take a little bit of time for myself. If I can sneak around the fairgrounds and just sit down and watch a show, or sit in my office for a little bit and just relax, finding that little bit of balance. And then also just having somebody there that I can vent to when something goes wrong is definitely beneficial.
Yeah, it sounds like having that person there that when you're overwhelmed and you just need to blow off a little steam, that they don't take offense and they like, okay, Carly,
Mhm.
we got you. You can do this.
Yes. Yeah.
So, was this your first job in fairs?
My first official job. Yeah. So I worked for my dad for several
Right,
years.
because you
And
mentioned that.
then I interned with the South Dakota State Fair,
Okay.
but this was my first official position.
Was there anything about this that you discovered you really weren't ready for?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Oh man, I wish the listeners could have seen your face right there. It was like, oh my God. I think the answer is the question is what wasn't overwhelming at first.
So, I mean, there was a lot of things that were overwhelming at first. When I came in, it was middle of June.
Ooh, that's
Fair
late
started,
because you guys are
yeah, fair
Labor Day.
started
So
the end of August. They
yeah.
hadn't had anybody in my position since like March or April. And so it was myself and one other girl came in to do all the entertainment and events that happened during fair. Mid-June, we're using a booking agency to do our grounds attractions at the time. So that helped a little bit. But jumping in, there was nobody to really train me other than our deputy director at the time, who knew very little about the position because she had just moved into her role herself.
Sure.
And then so that was definitely difficult. And then my role changed because that was initially a seasonal position. My role changed significantly the next year. I took on more responsibility the next year. And then I ended up getting super sick and spending 3 weeks in the hospital
Oh
in
no.
May of, I guess it would have been 2022. So it wasn't until this would have been my third fair this year. This was the first fair that I had actually been there for 365 days before the fair started.
Wow.
So it's been definitely been challenging, but I feel like I've got a groove now. Took
You've
3 years.
you've been throwing some curveballs
Oh
in
yeah,
this process of getting in there. Wow. Well, you said you were using an agency. Are you guys still using an agency or are you handling everything yourself?
we don't. I do everything in-house
You
now.
do it all in house.
Yeah.
So what are some of the goals you're looking at for this year's fair?
So one thing that makes Grand Island very different is where, I mean, we're central Nebraska, Midwestern state, where our population is almost 50% Latino.
Hmm.
So, which is weird for, I mean, any Midwestern area. So we try to incorporate not only the Latino culture,
Sure.
but the other cultures within Nebraska. So we have like Czech, the German, there's a little bit of different Asian cultures. So my goal this year is we've gotten a good hold on our Latino culture now. We have a great Latino Day. Now we're working on getting those other cultures involved so that there's a place for everybody at the fair. And that's kind of one of the things we strive for is making sure that the fair is for everyone.
Well, and it kind
And
of should be. I mean, as a state fair, you should be reflecting, the culture and the, the things that are unique about that state.
mhm, yeah. And then one of my other goals is, and I'm sure a lot of other fairs get this, is the fair is always the same. We don't go anymore because everything is always the same. And so getting that out of people's head and showing them that we have new entertainment, we have different stages, we have this, and this going on. So
Sure.
coming up with those unique items to get people to come try the fair again.
Yeah. It's always interesting for me as a performer. Like, I always love getting invited back over and over again because that makes my routing and my marketing a lot more efficient. But I also understand from the fairgoer's perspective, there's an element of they want to see something new, but then it's like I go to some fairs where the second you change one thing, they're angry. I remember the year that I went first, my first major fair I did, Washington State Fair. It was still Puyallup back then, and it was a year that I guess the hypnotist that they'd had for like 15 years was on a cruise ship or something and wasn't able to be at the fair. So they bring in another hypnotist who did a great job. But the people that were coming over to my stage, I'm here doing a magic show, and they're yelling at me about why they switched out the hypnotist. I'm like,
Mm.
I don't even know who the original hypnotist was. So you get some people that are really passionate, and I know you've got some really people that really support your fair. So, I mean, I guess it sounds like if you're switching some stuff up, hopefully then, that draws more people out. What are you switching like everything from last year, or is it a little sprinkle of this new and kind of trying to find a balance?
Yeah, it's definitely that balance. We have some entertainment that's been with us for years, some that's been with us for a couple years that the public is constantly asking for.
Yeah,
So we try to switch enough stuff up where we're getting a new crowd of people out here showing them that, hey, we have new stuff, but at the same time, keeping those things that people ask for, even if we in the office are like, okay, this again, we're kind of getting sick of this, but I mean, as long as
spill
people
the
keep showing
beans.
up.
Spill the beans. Who is it you're getting sick of? Just she
I
won't. She's not gonna do that.
don't think
She's
I
not
want to
gonna
do
do
that.
that. She's not gonna do that. Yeah, yeah, it's just one of those things where you try to find a balance, and you cannot please all the people all of the time, and sometimes those people show up and complain. So you
Hmm.
do your best, and I think you guys have always done. I mean, even years back when I was working with Chelsea when she was the entertainment director there, I think she and the staff at that time did a great job keeping things fresh and rotating things. And there were a couple years I was in, a couple years I was out, and it's just the nature of the industry. And it sounds like you guys, now that you've gotten your feet under you and actually gotten one full fair in without, illness or anything dramatic going on, it sounds like you're really ready to build out for 2024.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this year. I feel like I finally kind of know what I'm doing.
Well, I think you're probably doing a great job with it. If there's one thing that you could snap your fingers and instantly improve about the state fair, what would it be?
I think our concert venue, we have for our national concerts, we have a very unique venue because we don't have a grandstand like a lot of fairs do. We have an indoor venue that holds just under 5,500 people, but the acoustics in there aren't great. And we don't have full control of that venue because we don't actually own our grounds. So logistically and bringing in the bigger acts that people want to see, we have to bring them outside. So every year we go out, we use the infield of a horse racing practice track, and we build our grandstand area. And with that, not having permanent seating, we don't have a lot of seating out there. So if we could figure out how to build our temporary grandstand area and please everybody, that would be fantastic.
That is like the eternal challenge for fairs, because unless you've built like a modern state-of-the-art facility, like OC Fair has Pack Amp, this gorgeous outdoor amphitheater on their property, right? Worked wonderfully. But then what do you do when you're a Midwest fair like you guys? And it's like, well, you do have the arena, but like you said, the acoustics are not fantastic in there. I was there the night Skinnerd was playing, and like they sounded great, but you can definitely tell when there's an acoustic issue in a building. We have that here at the Expo New Mexico. Tingley Coliseum was built as a rodeo arena, and they've done some improvements over the years, but it's not like a casino, amphitheater where the sound is flawless. So that's definitely a challenge. Who I'm curious of all the bands. Now you've been there now for 3 years. Of the bands that you've seen in that time, like what's the best concert that's come through there?
I think personally, Jeff Dunham. I'm not a huge
Mm,
comedy fan, but it was definitely unique and gave us a whole lot of challenges to work through and make our area better. And I love being challenged and seeing how we can make things better. So from a logistical standpoint, definitely Jeff Dunham.
I've seen him before. I think was he the one that Jeremy Parsons did a video with, I think last year at the Iowa State Fair.
Yeah, yeah. When he does a bit in his act where he tries a fair food and
Oh,
brings
that's
out a
right.
steak from the fair. I did it with him when he was here, and that was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
did you? Was it cool?
Yeah,
How is he to work with? Is he like prima donna or is he like super professional?
he's pretty professional. We had some travel issues that day. Seems to be a trend with our little airport that we have here.
Yeah.
But we had some travel
Well,
issues
I
that
mean, you
day, so he
can't
ended up
can't hold
getting
him
in pretty
responsible for
late.
the airport.
Yeah. He ended up getting in pretty late, and we ended up having to delay the show a little bit due to technical difficulties, but he was great about it.
Yeah.
Got on, one of his friends got on and told everybody just to hold tight. The show would be starting soon.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I've
it was
always heard that when working in the industry, you hear talk behind the scenes of like, oh, these people were awful. And then I heard, but everything I've ever heard about people that have worked with Jeff is that he is top notch, super patient, real professional, and does an incredible show.
mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I'm curious outside of the fair, because we've been, talking for about 28 minutes or so on fair stuff. Outside of the fair, what does Carly enjoy doing?
I don't know. It's
I
kind of
live
a
in
weird
Grand Island,
question.
Robert. It's the fair or nothing.
I mean, for a while there, I graduated with my master's degree this past August. So that was what I enjoyed doing out of the fair was working on school. But now that I'm not going to school, I like getting outside when I can, when it's nice enough out, cooking, baking. Pinterest is my best friend. I love trying out new recipes and sharing them with friends and family. And then just catching up on Netflix and hanging out with friends.
Nice. Nice. So what, because if you just graduated, so you're a youngin',
Uh-huh.
you're a youngster. See, and this, the older I get, I do these podcasts and I'm like, oh, okay, she just graduated, so I'm old. But I'm curious, even in your young life so far, your young adult life, what advice would you give a 15-year-old Carly?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give 15-year-old would be don't let what people on social media say about you affect how you live your life.
That's a
One of
big
the,
one.
yeah, with my job especially, um, every time we announce a concert, it's inevitable that somebody says, I shouldn't have this job. whoever's picking the concerts needs to be fired. Um, so I've just learned to laugh it off. I think they're funny now.
Well,
And
you can't please all the people all the time, and sometimes all of those people show up in the comments, and what do you do about it? Like,
mhm. I just always have to remind myself that the people that are commenting are the ones that have something negative to say. Most of the time, people that have something positive to say aren't going to take the time to comment.
well, and that isn't that always been the case? I mean, even back before social media, when businesses, had a comment line or something, people will take the time to complain all day long, but when they get really great service or something goes really well, they say nothing about it.
Hmm.
That's rough.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean,
definitely.
you have to be at a point, I'm guessing by now, where when you make that announcement and you say, "Hey, this is the artist that's coming," there's some people that are like inevitable. I see these announcements, and inevitably you get a bunch of people that go tag their friends, like, "Hey, let's go." But then
Yeah.
there's just out of nowhere, people are like, "That act sucks. What's wrong with you?"
Hmm. Or they'll tell us, they'll be like, well, this venue that's 2 hours away got so and so, and the state fair can't even bring somebody that's even slightly as good as they are. I'm like, good is your opinion.
Yeah, no kidding. Listen, there's state fairs that I've been to that I see their concert lineup, and I'm like, how did they end up booking that concert lineup? And then every single night it's sold out. And there's times that I've been like, oh, that's going to be an awesome show, and it's only two-thirds full.
Hmm.
So basically, what we're learning from that statement is don't trust Robert to pick your bands for you for the fair. I would be the one that'd be like, okay, we'll have Boys to Men on Friday night, and then Boys to Men on Saturday night, and then yeah, I'm all about Motown and R&B. Cool. So we're a little over half hour here. Want to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Before we go, everybody who comes on the show, we do a little speed round of questions. So I ask a question, you give me your best answer real quick, and we'll see what happens. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Question one, what's your favorite fair food?
Cheese curds
Um, last song you downloaded.
was God and Country by Ann Wilson just this morning, actually.
All right. Last book you read?
What was it? One by One by Frida McFadden.
Okay. If you could have a guest role on any TV show, what would the TV show be?
Oh, that's hard.
Oh,
Probably Vanderpump Rules.
really?
Yeah.
You are definitely younger. You are definitely. See, I'm the guy that, like, if you ask me, I'd be like, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad. Have Walter White kill me. Let's go.
One of those reality shows. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I guess I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but Vanderpump Rules. That's your vibe, huh?
Yeah.
Is that your favorite, like Netflix and just kick back with a on
Hmm.
a Saturday afternoon? That's it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Karli, how can folks get in touch with you? Because after this, all these entertainers that are listening are going to be like, I want to go work at the fair. How do I get a hold of her and bother? Because I know you probably never get any emails from performers like,
Oh,
book me,
never.
book me, book me.
No. I have definitely haven't gotten 2 or 3 just in the past half hour. No,
Hold
best
on,
way to get a hold of me.
let me send you an email about my stuff real quick.
Okay, perfect. Best way to get a hold of me is via email. I'm really bad at answering my phone. So K Schultz, SCHULZ at statefair.org.
Hey Schultz at statefair.org. Karli Schultz, entertainment and events director for the amazing Nebraska State Fair in Grand Island. Appreciate you being on the show today. For all of you listening, we really appreciate your continued support. If you see one of our videos online, we would love it if you'd like it and share it and help kind of trump that Facebook algorithm. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.